Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
Johnny Rogers with the history of rock and roll is coming to the Watch Your Opera House this Saturday, February 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. featuring the music of Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley, Richie Valens, The Big Bopper, Ricky Nelson, the Everly Brothers, and so much more. Tickets are $30, which you can purchase at the door or online at watchyouraoperahouse.org. Come and see Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Johnny Rogers this Saturday, February 1st at the Watch Your Opera House.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. If you're looking for us, you found us. We are the Card Subject to Change podcast. I am your host, never wrong, Nick Bull. I'd be remiss if I did not mention my tag team partner. We are the co-champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. We are fighting champions. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ Wiz. How you doing?
Man, it's been a long weekend, but I am feeling absolutely fantastic. Pun intended there, since we're dealing a lot with Absolute Pro Wrestling this weekend with our podcast yesterday. I know the youngest bull in the clan had some wrestling going on his end, but not the type we deal with on a regular basis.
No, the wrestling I know far more or less about, but still it's entertaining to watch. I want to thank Zach Takis for filling in for me and helping CZ out up in Waterloo yesterday as we record this with the Absolute Pro Wrestling podcast pre-show party. I know I talked to you late last night on your way home about the show. You said you had a great time, another fun show up with Absolute. So I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But, yeah, definitely a fun wrestling weekend for you, it sounds like.
Very much so. Everything went well. I had a lot of fun, and I'm so excited for what's to come here because we've got another great week of wrestling, and I'm excited to talk to our guest today because he made a brief appearance back in October when Zach and I did our second podcast party up in Waterloo. But this is the first time we're going to have a chance to sit down and talk to him, get to know him a little bit, and we're going to bring him in right now. Please welcome into the studio, Vicious Victor Payne. Victor, how are you today, sir?
Yo, I'm feeling rough after last night. I'll tell you what. Got the boots laid to me. So yeah, sorry about my voice too, by the way. It's a little rough. But no, other than that, other than being sore, the typical 15 guys stomping you out, what can you do?
Absolutely. Right.
Well, we hope this interview here is less painful than the pain you're going through right now, suffered from last night. But I'm gonna handle you as a first-time guest because I've never had a chance to sit and talk with you. Yeah, and I always ask our first-time guests the same question. I'm going to ask you, why professional wrestling? What got you hooked, and what's kept you here this whole time?
What got me hooked? Honestly, it was Ultimate Warrior. I seen him when I was 3, and that was it. It was wrestling after that for me. Watching it with my grandpa at my grandma's house with my dad. My dad hated it, but he eventually started to like it because I was watching it. And
sure,
it's just that I just seen it, and I always, as a kid, I was like, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. Every time they'd ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Pro wrestler. Like, that was always my answer. So It's always just been there. So yeah, I've always been a fan since day one. So
what was it that drew you in particularly? Was there a particular, you mentioned the Warrior. Is there a match that you remember that really was that brilliant moment?
Really can't say a match specifically. Like, I was a Goldberg kid too. So,
okay.
Goldberg was my guy. Like, if it didn't involve Goldberg when I was a kid, I didn't give a crap about it. So it was like, no, I don't care. If it ain't Goldberg wrecking dudes, I don't want to deal with it. So that's really my earliest memories. Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, that type of. I hate Hogan. Like, I can't even. I'm on Iron Sheik level type of fuck Hulk Hogan. Sorry for the language, but
it's okay, man.
And the story behind that is everybody always asks me why I hate Hulk Hogan. Like, yeah, my dad. When I was a kid, we had the Ultimate Warrior costume and a Hulk Hogan costume on the rack. And he's like, which one do you want? And I said, Warrior. And he got me to Hogan. And I've hated Hogan ever since.
Oh, man.
And Hogan's never been on the table for me. I've always been a F Hulk Hogan guy. So,
I've been watching a lot of Nitro back from when it first started. Sure. And I'll be honest, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was all in on Hulk Hogan when I was a kid growing up. But watching him back, Nick and I have had this conversation several times. How is he the biggest baby face ever with the shit that he does?
No idea.
He's sitting there.
I never got it either. After
eyes, wrapping people in the back. I don't get it.
Right. There gets to a point where you see past the facade of wrestling as a kid and you get like, oh, what? And then you see the repetitiveness and the same, like, his attitude all the time, I guess. And like, you notice more of that stuff as you get older. And I just never been a Hogan guy.
Understandable.
No, I get that. You raised some good points about him. And you talk about Hogan, you talk about Goldberg. I'm going to ask, were you more of a WCW guy than a WWE
Yeah,
guy?
My dad was more of a WCW guy. So he would want to watch.
So that tells me something. The fact that your dad didn't like wrestling and then comes around and has a preferred brand. So you must have done a pretty good job of convincing him be, hey, this is fun, Dad. Come be a wrestling fan.
So if Dad wasn't in control of the remote, it was on, what was it, TBS or
TNT.
Or TNT, that's right, TNT or USA. So, I mean, it was either or.
So I want to go back a little bit. You're talking about Goldberg, and I'm going to ask a hotbed question here. What were your thoughts at Starrcade 98 when Scott Hall tased Goldberg and cost him the title?
I think it could have been done a little different, but I don't know. A lot of people say it was just Nash and Hall going into business for themselves and all that. And it's like, who knows? We weren't there. It was a shady situation for sure. So did I think it did right to Goldberg at the time? No. For what he was doing in that run, sure, he might have been smashing jobbers left and right, 176 of them or whatever. But like, there's a point to that. You're leading up to something to get to that payoff. I don't think it was worth it for that payoff. And for him to turn around to the finger poke of doom.
I was just going to say that led to one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history.
The worst, probably one of the worst moments in wrestling history.
Oh man. And that just completely tore WCW down. And that was the start of their downfall.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
We've got Victor Payne from Absolute Pro Wrestling World in the studio with us here on the Card Subject to Change podcast. I'm never wrong, Nick Bull. He's the Wizard CZ. I'm going to ask you another Goldberg question because, to be honest with, we really don't talk a lot about Goldberg on here. Yeah. We kind of, you've been probably one of the few people that's brought up Goldberg that you were, a fan and following, and that's fine. I want to ask you this: is he going to get the retirement match here coming up in WWE before Mania or maybe at Mania? Well, I don't think he'll do it at Mania because I think that'll be John Cena's spotlight.
Right.
But is Goldberg going to get that farewell match this year? And if he does, who do you want it to be against?
Oh man, I'd rather not. Just because his last few showings just have not been that great. So that the one with Taker, that should have been him and Taker's bat last. Both of them be done. Both of you should be.
I know.
Don't ever do it again. Like, tie up the boots, guys. Come on. And I know I have no right to say that because I'm only in the business 4 or 5 years now, but it's hard to watch stuff like that. So knowing that we're trying to keep our opponents safe, they're trying to keep us safe, and to watch two veterans of the game like that be so unsafe, it sets a bad precedent, in my opinion. Like, nobody wants to see you guys get hurt. Nobody wants to see you guys hurt each other like that, like in a life-threatening type of way. But I guess getting back to the retirement, does he deserve one? I mean, no, because he's already had one. How many retirements has he had? You know, these guys that like Ric Flair, for example, last match. Now he's talking about having another last match.
Oh, God, I hope not. Because
like, well, you can't, dude. You almost died in your last one.
Everybody watched him almost die a couple times during that match. Yeah, we don't need that. No,
like, don't do it. There's a point where you get. It's the same in like MMA. You have a legacy, and then you go past your expiration date on that legacy. It starts to tarnish everything you've already done, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, you were great once, but you can stop when you're great. Like, you have nothing else left to prove, so why try to, you know?
Okay.
That's how I feel about Goldberg. Like, you've done enough. Like, you took the championship off of Bray Wyatt when nobody wanted you to, okay? Like, nobody wanted that except Vince. And they did it, and it was like, what a big mistake. So
let's talk about his run in the WWE a little bit. I want to, obviously you talk about Bray Wyatt and him dropping the title to Goldberg. I agree. Nobody wanted to see that. But let's go back in time. Do you think he was handled well when he was first brought in? And the match that sticks out most to me as one of the most infamously awful matches is his match with Brock Lesnar with Stone Cold as the referee.
Oh, wow.
WrestleMania 20.
Right. I haven't even thought of that match in a long time, I guess. But
and
yeah.
leave it to CZ to bring up the crap stuff, the crap match. Thank you.
No, I don't know. I mean, God, I forgot all about that match.
It's probably
Like,
good
really.
you did. It's probably good you did.
I'm trying to think of, like, obviously Brock probably won, right? Or did Goldberg win that?
Goldberg went over.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yep. Goldberg went over.
Was that WrestleMania? You said 20?
That was WrestleMania 20 with Stone Cold, the quad riding Stone Cold Steve Austin as the referee.
What year was that? 2006? No.
4.
Oh,
No, it'd been 2004?
2004.
2004, yes.
Shit. Because a lot of my, I got
No,
CTE and
2003. 2003.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, 23 was in 07 because I went to that one.
Okay.
So, but yeah, getting back to the Brock Goldberg, I don't know. Those are two big dudes that throw it. So getting like me last night got gassed. You go in there and throw a little bit, you get gassed, and then that's when the mistakes happen. And that's when it's what we try to avoid. But sorry, I forgot the question.
Oh, I said if he had one more match in WWE, who would you want him to be going against?
Who would I want him to go against? Gosh, there's so many viable players right now in the WWE. There's so many guys that could go with him and could get probably something good out of him. I don't know, like a Braun Breaker or a Sheamus even. Like Sheamus is, close to that too. So I think Sheamus can still go. So I think he proved that.
I do too.
I watched him and Braun from last night, this morning,
Yes.
and I was like, wow, that was. I thought Sheamus was going to win, but I think they might say that for Mania. But yeah, I'd say probably somebody like a Braun Breaker or I guess Jacob Fatu. I could watch Jacob
Ooh.
Fatu beat the shit out of Goldberg for a minute.
Dude, how fun was it? Hey, I don't know if you've watched the rest of Saturday night's main event, but how fun was it watching Jacob Fatu just beat the crap out of Braun Strowman?
A guy like, see, I would say Braun Strowman, but we've already seen Goldberg Braun.
Yeah.
You know, when Goldberg put Braun over, like, which is made sense. That made sense. That's what everybody wanted to see. But like, oh man, Jacob Fatu, that dude is something else.
He is. He's an absolute monster. I think they just need to take him off the chain and just let him.
I think they are. They got a new name for the tribal werewolf or whatever. So
yeah.
I was like, come on, let's go.